Welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind, where Steve Yeager and Justin Stoddart interview the best and brightest minds in business and real estate. Their focus is helping realtors in Portland, Oregon solve the industry's biggest problems, enabling listeners to take their individual businesses to the next level. And don't forget to subscribe to get their most current episodes.
All right, welcome to the Think Bigger podcast with Justin Stoddart and my co-host Steve Yeager. Excited to be on here today because today's guest is someone that's a favorite of ours, a favorite of a lot of people, Nick KRAUTTER with SellPDX.com. Say hello, Nick.
Hey, guys.
Hey, glad to have you here. Love the logo in the back so that everyone's reminded. That's awesome. Couple things for those of you that don't know Nick. Nick and I first kind of met based on a recommendation that I go sit and meet with him. I became really interested in the topic of agents that probably want to retire but don't have an avenue on how to do that, and was recommended from now a good friend and lender of ours, James Adair, who said, you got to talk with Nick KRAUTTER. He's written a book on this. And that wasn't just a cute saying, like he literally was writing a book on it. So the Golden Handoff, if any of you have not heard of this book, whether you're brand new in the business and want to treat this like a real business that you may one day sell or could sell, or if you're an agent that's kind of getting that point where it's like, it'd be nice to have a succession plan here at some point, this book is incredible. And you can find it at goldenhandoff.com. In addition to that, just another way to introduce Nick here. He's got one of the biggest and fastest growing teams in Portland. And he's also well known in the area for this report that he puts out annually, Portland, Oregon 2016 Real Estate Report. And maybe that's a good segue, Nick, into kind of the topic, at least one of the topics we want to cover today, is that there's, I think, a growing sentiment with certain parts of the society today saying, realtors get paid really well when they sell a home. What's the value that they're doing? And I think that's probably typical in a really hot market for, especially on the selling side where things are going so fast. They're questioning kind of like what additional value are realtors bringing to the table. And I share that so that we can kind of start a discussion on that about maybe where that's coming from, some of the myths about that, and how really you're, in my opinion, kind of the foremost thought leader in the area and differentiating by adding such unique knowledge and value to the clients with whom you work that people wouldn't say that about you, right? There are a whole bunch of bad agents. We've had those conversations as well. But maybe share with us your thoughts on that, and please pipe in as well, Steve, about how the role of an agent is evolving and needs to evolve for them to continue to be relevant and important in the eyes of society.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And certainly there's a lot of belief in the market about what realtors do is too easy and they get paid too much for it in a market like this, where we have a severe seller's market where most properties get multiple offers and they're going for over asking on average in a lot of neighborhoods. And so I think that what you have to look at is, as realtors, if you're working with sellers and they're asking this question, and if they aren't asking you the question directly, they're thinking it. And so it's good to acknowledge it. And so the way I do that is I just say, look, your house is going to sell, whether you hire me or someone else, or even if you decide to do it yourself. The difference is what you're paying me to do is to market the property in such a way and to negotiate with other agents and communicate with them based on my hundreds of transactions of experience. I think it's close to, the team's in over 1,000 transactions at this point, and negotiate the best possible price and terms. It isn't about selling it. It's about selling it for negotiating the deals up for more money. It's about getting the terms exactly how you want them so that this is as stress-free as possible. And it's about keeping the deal together. And that sometimes that is as subtle as knowing the different agents, being able to read between the lines of an offer. And those are things that you are not going to get if you do it yourself or if you hire an agent that doesn't have an extremely high level of skill and experience. So I think the first step is just to acknowledge, like, look, your property will sell with me or without me, but here's why it's different if you choose to work with me. And it's about looking at selling the property as a starting point, not listing it. And that's a big shift of thinking, because most people think, well, I want to sell my house, so I want to hire an agent that can sell it. But if all the houses are selling, at least people believe that. That's not true. A lot of homes don't sell. They're still cancels and expires, and there's homes that are on the market forever. And but if you acknowledge that the when we get an offer is really, that's day one. Then how do you explain what you do from that point forward? And the truth is, a lot of realtors aren't good at that. And if you're not, it's hard to have a value proposition in this market, because anyone can hand someone an offer and tell them to sign it. But being able to get multiple offers and negotiate and to keep track of every single lead, every client, every agent that's called about a property, and make sure that when an offer comes in, you're reaching out, you're emailing, you're calling, texting all these people to try to rally multiple offer situations, and telling sellers when to wait and not accept an offer. Let's wait a couple more days. Those are the types of things we're talking to our clients about, in terms of why are they going to choose to pay us this large sum of money to negotiate this deal. And you have to say, it's not about selling it. It's about how it sells and how much we get for it and the terms we get.
Well said. I love what you said. If they're not saying it, they're thinking it, right? There's a lot of pressure from, other, whether it be reduced commission companies out there or technology companies that are making it seem as if selling your home by yourself, you'd be crazy not to. And I love it when you're just, identifying the elephant in the room to say, hey, you may have had this thought before. Let me share with you what our value is, because you're right. It helps sink it home deeper, and just identifying that they're probably thinking this if they're not saying it. So
right.
Great. In addition to that, so one of our kind of visions at Old Republic Title. In fact, we didn't say this up front. We probably ought to. So bear with us, Nick. Steve and I have to say this at the beginning, so we'll say it now, is that the thoughts and ideas that we share here are not of Old Republic, but are of Steve and myself. So my vision that I've began kind of crafting more carefully and getting more clarity on is to help realtors continue to change the conversation between them and their clients to where that sentiment goes away and real estate continues to be a hub for the top entrepreneurs out there. That It doesn't become a place for kind of just either data entry or kind of lesser ambitious professionals, but it remains that way by helping to change and elevate their thinking, and in turn change and elevate the thinking that they have with their clients. So this is all part of that. So I appreciate you sharing what you shared, because it kind of validates and helps agents to think a little bit differently, think a little bit bigger, and in turn be able to offer a different conversation that's relevant and valuable to their clients. So great point.
I have a question, Nick. So before real estate, what were you involved in that made you come in here and realize how important the customer experience really is? Because everything you're saying is, you take care of your clients in a different way, but whether it's a seller's market where you're having to articulate exactly what it is you're doing, why it's better to be in business with you, or a buyer's market, why you still want to use your group, your team. What's your background been that showed you, hey, this is something I want to get involved in because I think I could really make a difference?
Well, I guess, if you go really far back, both my parents were public school teachers. And so, I saw them work very hard for very little money. And, when they sold their house, the commission was huge. They sold a house for, they'd built it and had it for 30 years. But by the time they sold it in California, it was worth, I think, $750,000 or $800,000, which was, the most money they'd ever seen. And the commission was equally large. And I think they were kind of blown away by that. That's when I was in college. So that was kind of as I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And so, I realized how much money there was involved in it and how big of a deal it was. And, my parents had that same perception of that didn't seem that hard. This was in the last seller cycle. And they got paid a ton of money. And if you don't know what goes on behind the scenes, it's very difficult to understand how much a difference it makes between having an agent with experience who cares about the work they're doing versus someone that's just kind of in it for a commission or just to get a deal closed, and isn't really using a lot of skill or educating their clients. After college, I worked in the music business and I was managing bands. So I was negotiating contracts, tours. I was dealing basically in intellectual property. It was the same thing. I was essentially a broker of intellectual property. And that is significantly more difficult than real estate, because real estate is real, it's tangible. It has a defined value, a song or a record. It's very hard to prove what the value of that is. And that's why that industry is so difficult. But when I switched over to real estate in 2006, a lot of the skills that I had worked on in terms of like networking and contract negotiation and dealing with lots of different types of personalities and different agendas and different, hopes and dreams and fears. And if you think people love their house, people love the music they write and love their records way, way more than anyone's ever loved a house. So, the level of passion and the level of importance and really identity with what they were doing as their product was huge. And so I think a lot of people thought it would be a really big shift from being in the music business to being in real estate and selling houses. But to my mind, so many of the skills that I had worked on and built over 5 years in that, working in that industry, translated very, very well to real estate. And in a lot of ways, you know, it's much easier. You can't do a market analysis on a song, right? I mean, that is incredibly difficult. You have to have already sold it. The only proof is that it sells. And so with real estate, in a lot of ways, it's easier to help people understand the value. And the process is similar. I mean, you've got to have a seller and buyer. You have to have a product, and you've got to go through a process. And the process with the music business is way more complicated than negotiating a record deal or a tour is way more difficult than negotiating the sale of a home. And so in a lot of ways, you know, it was a lot easier. And a lot of the skills I learned there translated very well to this.
Interesting. A lot of intangibles in the music industry that it would be hard to quantify into pricing.
Yeah.
One other topic that I think is relevant. It's kind of a piggyback onto what we've been sharing here, but obviously there's a lot of agents entering into the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
And some of them are getting good training and are turning into be good agents. There's a group of them, whether they're new into the marketplace, whether they've been around for a while, there's a group of bad agents. And part of that may be leading to the problem we already discussed, which is, what does that realtor really do? Maybe if you wouldn't mind talking about kind of that, about the importance of not just being an agent, being a good agent and being a knowledge-based agent that's producing relevant content for their clients, and also maybe the value of even a team. Obviously, you support that, endorse that. You know, you've got a fast-growing team. You've written a paper on the team, sellpdx.com/teams. What insight would you have around how maybe a team could help raise the level of the industry?
Well, I think that, you know, the thing about a team that's great is that if you don't want to be a generalist and you want to specialize in one area of real estate, you can do it. A solo agent never has enough volume to specialize. So you have to do everything. You have to do the research, print out the, you know, either the market report or the contracts. You've got to show the property, go to the inspections, negotiate, turn the paperwork into your office, you know, talk with the lender, go to the appraisal, you know, coordinate closing, all of those things. Whereas if you're on a team like mine, where we're doing a significant volume of transactions, we're helping a lot of people. So take, for example, someone like Ben on my team. Ben loves working on listings. He loves helping people sell homes, and he's exceedingly good at negotiating multiple offers and getting our clients more money than most agents would. He does not want to drive around and show houses. It's just not his personality. And if you're on a team, you get to work on what you're good at and what you want to do. And I would argue that what people enjoy doing, they typically end up being better at because they're willing to work harder at it. On the flip side, there's people that really want to bond with the clients. They really want to have a relationship and have a lot of face time. And those folks usually work with buyers. They don't necessarily want to negotiate listings and have to ask someone to pay them. And some people want to be front-facing, and some people love to be a part of the process and love the excitement of doing a lot of work and helping a lot of people, but they don't necessarily want to be the ones writing offers, negotiating, or living on commission. And so those people end up typically helping behind the scenes and making our jobs easier on the front side because they're taking care of so much of the heavy lifting on the back end. Real quick, the URL you mentioned, it's sellpdx.com/team, singular. But yeah, that is about our team, and it's about teams in general, but it's based on all my experience of, you know, when I started to start a team, I asked all these different people, you know, what is the model? How do you pay people? Who does what? And it was frustrating because, like a lot of things in real estate, there's a lot of inconsistency, meaning that you can do it however you want. There's no model, there's no rule. There's some norms, and I tried to adopt as many of those as I could. But I did that to help explain the team to my own team and to myself so that we know who is in what role and why and how everyone was compensated. And also just to share that with other people, because there's so much confusion out there about teams and how does everyone get paid and where does the money go. And so I thought that document would help explain it. So I just ended up doing a white paper, and it's got like 50 pie charts of every conceivable type of deal that could happen on a team and who gets paid what and where the money goes, so that it's just really transparent for the people on my team and then for people out there considering whether they want to be on a team or work on their own.
So speaking of teams, so how does a team work better in this day in 2016? With technology has changed the way it has. So we talked a little bit off air about the demands of the real estate agent. You're starting to hear from clients at a lot different times, and the response needs to be immediate, or the expectation is immediate. How is working with a team, or how are you able to get better customer service with today's technology?
Well, I think the more that technology advances in communication and sharing of information speeds up, the expectation of clients and other agents is that everything happens much faster. So the velocity of how deals are done and how decisions are made just goes quicker and quicker. And people have the expectation that everyone's available all the time, which is not, I wouldn't say that's realistic, and I wouldn't say that that's a healthy thing, but that's definitely becoming more the norm and more of an expectation. So that's, I think, one of the shifts you see. I would say in terms of how does a team handle that better, right now in this market, it's very common that a home's on the market for hours before it sells, and people set deadlines to review offers. And you have to live by those deadlines if you're going to actually help your clients. If they're going to buy a house and they have to get an offer in by 5 o'clock on Monday, you can't do it at 7 o'clock on Monday. It has to be by, prior to the deadline. And if you're a solo agent and you're at a listing appointment and someone decides they want to buy the house that has the deadline tonight, and you can't get back to them until after the deadline, that client just lost the house. So in the sense of how important it is to the client, it is like 100% the most important thing that you're available or someone's available. And as my team grew and my client base grew, and we're still mostly repeat and referral, which I'm really proud to say that, our focus is still on client care, even as big as we get. If we're selling over $100 million worth of real estate a year, I still want to have a focus of taking care of clients in a way that they want to repeat and work with us and refer people to us. That to me is the definition of doing good work. But in a team, you have a dedicated agent that's available to help you. So if Ben is at a listing appointment and he's negotiating offers and he's sitting down at the kitchen table going over 5 or 6 offers with a seller, and that might take 2 or 3 hours, depending on how in detail they are and how many different contingencies they have to go over and explain. Someone on the buyer's team can be writing the offer and negotiating on their behalf on a house they want to buy. And if you're a solo agent, you simply can't be in 2 places at one time. And so that to me is the big promise of a team, and that is where we have a huge advantage over a solo agent or even a smaller team. I mean, right now we've got 4 people on our buyer's department that could help out at any time, and everyone on our team is licensed. So even if our buyer's agents are maxed out or they're driving back and forth, they can call into the office and someone on the team can write an offer and get it drafted while they're driving back to the office. And I did that a couple weeks ago, and it helped us win a deal. If you don't have a lot of people helping, kind of your ratio of agents to clients has to have a certain balance. And so as you get more clients, you have to have more agents to keep that balance pretty close.
Great insight. One to play devil's advocate, which I want to hear then your rebuttal.
Sure.
An agent, and she said, I'm concerned about doing the team thing because I don't want my clients to feel passed off. Like I don't want them to feel like they're part of just on an assembly line and there's so many people touching them, and I don't get to create that client experience. How have you combated that to where that's not how your clients feel?
Well, I think that there are going to be clients out there that would much rather work with an agent that's only doing a couple deals a month, 1 or 2 deals a month, and they have their undivided attention, and there is, a conversation that happens with one person start to finish. And if that is what someone wants, then we can't compete with that because we simply can't operate that way with the amount of people that are asking us to help them. So you have to make a decision that you're okay with that if you're going to build a team. I would tell you that there's very, very few people that feel that way. It's one a year, 2 a year out of the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people we talk to. I would say this, that if you're going to build a team, it is critical that you get people that you believe in. And I say this in the Golden Handoff, that if you're going to pick someone to take over your business, you better make sure there's someone you would honestly hire to help you. And if you couldn't look yourself in the mirror and go, I would hire this person to sell my house or help me buy a house, then that's not the right person. And if you have people on your team or you're considering hiring people that you wouldn't want to work with as a client, then keep looking. And if you can't attract that quality of person, you need to consider paying more. You need to consider having a better business so that the people with real talent want to be a part of it. And I think that's one of the things that's most exciting about where we are right now with my team is that because we've grown so much and we have so much opportunity here, we get the best people that want to be a part of our team, both from real estate and people that are transitioning into real estate from other industries. And you simply don't get to a point where you get to attract the best people until you've already proven that you've got the ability to build a pretty sizable business and generate a lot of relationships and a lot of client, needs. And so that is to me the push and pull of the team solo agent. If you're a good solo agent, you will need a team, or you're going to have to say no to people. If you're not saying no to people and you're a solo agent, you're either new or you're not doing the best job. You're not doing as good of a job as you think you are. And if you're really good as a solo agent and you do good work and people want to work with you, you're going to be in a position where you simply can't serve them in a really honorable way unless you have other people to help. And so you have to make sure that your standard of care, as much as possible, that everyone on your team has the same passion and standard of care with clients that you do. And then you have to use technology and tools to help make the conversation consistent. So you have to take notes. So when we have a client in our database, we make sure that we have notes so that if one agent talks to them about something, that they keep a record of it so that the next time I pick up the phone and call them, I know the conversations that have happened. I know the questions or concerns that have been that have been answered or haven't been answered. So I can make sure that I'm speaking from a place of being informed. So you get to a point where you can't remember everything. You can't do everything yourself. And so you have to use systems and tools, and you have to get leverage with really good, talented, quality people in order to grow a business in this industry.
I think that's really almost like your advice about when I hire this person to help me in real estate is like so obvious, but I think a lot of people haven't thought that. They just find someone to fill a spot. But it's like, is this person really going to represent me in a way that I'd want to be represented? Great point. Yeah,
and the counterpoint to that is that everyone is different, right? And everyone has different strengths. So my buyer's agents are probably a lot more patient than I am. So would I personally, with my personality profile, want to work in that way with that buyer's agent? I might want them to speed it up and let's get to the point, and I don't want to talk about it. Like, just, I want this house, let's buy it. And so you want to find people that have talent, who are quality and care about the client experience, but they're not going to be a copy of you. And the people that wait for that person never grow. And they're constantly, I talk to people that have been doing this 30 or 40 years and they're still showing houses at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. I don't think of that as my version of success. That's not what I would say I want to do 30 years from now after being in the business a decade. So now everyone has a different, thing that they want to do. Some people, that's maybe what they want to do. That's their true passion. It's like their job and their hobby and everything. But, I think that if you get the right people, that it gives you a lot more freedom as a team leader. And that allows you to focus on higher level questions and ideas and help grow the business and honestly take better care of your clients, not worse.
I go back to, I think it's changing the mindset of people when they look at the real estate industry. Can you imagine if you walked into your dentist's office and your dentist was sitting behind the front desk and they checked you in, and then your dentist walked you back, cleaned your teeth, gave you a filling, and then afterwards you walked and you sat with your dentist behind a computer and they paid your bill? That would be, you'd start questioning, is your dentist very successful? Yeah. All those roles. But for some reason in real estate, we went down this path for years of that person does everything for you. Well, you know what? It's kind of jack of master of none. I think the like you're saying, the benefits of working with the team, one, people being responsive, and two, you're getting the people that are the very best at that role. Yeah. If I'm working with NICK KRAUTTER or Ben Drokas, I want you guys negotiating the contracts. I want you negotiating the deals. I don't necessarily want to pay that kind of commission for you to sit on the computer and enter in the transaction to the system for your office, right? I mean, right. You kind of look at, you're solving the bigger problems. That's the biggest problem I have as somebody selling a home, is making sure that deal goes through. I don't really care about the paperwork part. But when you're a solo agent, you know how that is when you first get going. That's your responsibility. That's what you're doing at 11 o'clock at night, and enter into the transaction management system and doing all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the root of that idea comes from a lot of people in real estate don't think that what realtors do matters. And so they just hire someone that they like or someone that they're friends with. And so then the expectation is that they're going to treat it like a friend relationship, right? Where you're like always available and that one person does everything. As opposed to someone that says, I want to hire the best person at this job, whether I really like them or not, or whether we like hang out at barbecues together or not. then you want someone who's a specialist who's going to do an exceptional job because you believe that the person you pick has an influence on the results. And so that really is the core thing, is that if someone has a belief system that, well, it doesn't really matter who I pick because the result's going to be the same. Like either I'll pick the house I want to buy or the house is going to sell itself. That's why people choose weak agents who they just have like a social or personal relationship with. And if you believe that who you pick has an influence on, in this market, whether you get the house or not that you want or at the price you get it, because there's a negotiation on that side too. It isn't just about giving up and just paying whatever the seller asks for. There's a whole lot of negotiation and back and forth that goes on that saves our clients, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year collectively in negotiating purchase as well. And on the listing side, I see it all the time. I mean, there's a deal that, I worked on this year where just the negotiation I did back and forth got the offers up an additional $50,000 for a seller, where they would have been happy to have taken one of the offers, but I was able to push even a little bit more and work the price up an additional $50,000. Well, that's like a year's salary for most people. Mm-hmm. And I can, a good agent can, in the course of an hour or two, knowing what they know, being able to work on offers, create that much additional wealth or savings for a client. And the thing is that's why this job's so exciting, is I get to do that almost every day. Most people don't get the ability to help people at that scale and that level in any other job. It's not life or death. We're not doctors. No one dies at the end of the day in our business, but we significantly impact our clients' financial futures, and the best agents do a huge amount of that. We figured our average sales price to list price ratio above the MLS average last year made our clients an additional, I think, $200,000.
Impressive.
And so then you look at, okay, what did we cost our clients? How much did we make them extra? How much did they make more? And I feel really good about that. I think a great agent offsets their cost entirely. Yep. But if all you see is a commission and you don't understand that process, or if you're an agent and you can't explain that process clearly, then it's very difficult to explain, why am I paying you $50,000 to do this? And it's like, well, I'm going to try to make you an extra $100,000. And if you can do that and you have a track record and you can explain that and show that to people, that's incredibly powerful. And I think that the best agents in the country and in the world, that's really where they win, and that's really what they're doing. And it isn't necessarily the agents that sell the most houses. Sometimes those are just huge teams that are marketing based, and maybe they do a good job, maybe not. My goal is not to have the biggest team. My goal is to have the best team. And if we end up being the biggest team because of that, great. But it isn't just about the dollars. It's about our client experience and about maintaining a client base that wants to work with us in the future.
And it's so important. You talk about maximizing the dollars that come out. I saw a stat the other day with all these baby boomers starting to retire now, and large still retiring. I think I heard yesterday there's 10,000 people in the United States turn 62 every day. That's a lot of people. Yeah. They showed this stat. If you take the middle 50% of earners in the United States, 90% of their retirement is wrapped up into the home that they own.
Yeah.
So for the middle class, which is the largest group that we're looking at here, people that own homes, that is their retirement. So maximizing that extra 30 or 40 or 50 for them, that's huge. And that can be another couple years of retirement money invested well. So that's huge.
Or a whole different lifestyle level in retirement. Yeah, no, it's a massive thing. And also just counseling people on their options. We get calls all the time where someone says, hey, I want to sell this property. And I'm like, well, what are your goals? And sometimes I talk myself out of a job because it's not the right decision for the client. And a lot of people would say that's crazy, but I know and I believe that if you can do that, you're proving that your client matters more than you, which is what our job's supposed to be, right? We're supposed to put our clients above ourselves. And if you can actually do that, you're going to have a client for life, and they're going to refer everyone they know to you, and it's going to be significantly more valuable than just rushing someone into selling something because they said they wanted to and never asking the question of, why are you doing this? What is your motivation? What is your goal? What's the outcome you're trying to get from doing this? Because most people have no idea the implications or the consequences of buying or selling something. And what is it? 40% of people don't know you don't need 20% down.
Scary.
And that's why a lot of people wait to buy. I guarantee you that, there's a bunch of people last year that decided not to buy a house because they didn't know they could do it with 0 down or 3% down or 5% down. And it cost them, on average, in Portland, $50,000 last year. Now go to San Francisco, that's $100,000 that it cost them because of that misinformation and because they didn't ask the right questions or they didn't have a good conversation with someone. I mean, those are big deal numbers.
Yeah, really powerful. You've really added some as we expected you would, some unique content and insight about validating what a good realtor can, the influence they can have in somebody's life. Also love one thought that you had as you were talking about attracting talent to your team. I found that sometimes teams are a little bit of a revolving door, whereas you guys have people coming to you saying, I want to be a part of this, like top-notch talent coming to you.
Yeah.
And in an industry where people go in business to be in business for themselves, they have a hard time seeing themselves working for a team unless that team's vision is big enough. I mean, I kind of fall into the same boat. I'm an entrepreneur by heart, but under this umbrella, Steve has allowed me to have as big of a vision as I can handle, and be able to really kind of see myself reaching all my goals underneath his umbrella, right? Underneath his big vision. That's what you're doing as well, is really making home to some of the brightest and best entrepreneurs in the area, saying that your vision will be best fulfilled under our massive vision umbrella, So
yeah.
Kudos to you, and it lends itself to why you're having such great talent, attracted to your team.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's really, from my perspective as a leader of a team, there's two big value propositions. The first one you mentioned is my vision and my plan for where we're going big enough that everyone can succeed at the level they want to as part of the team. So you don't want to have a situation where someone outgrows your team. And I try to be very intentional about making sure that I'm aware of everyone's individual goals and motivation for being a part of it. A big thing too about our team is people that join this team because they want to learn the business at a high level, and they want to learn it very quickly. And so that's another thing that, don't lose sight of that. So that's why I try to, a lot of the content I produce is for the team as much as it is for our clients. The other piece of it is it isn't just about opportunity. It's about, as an entrepreneur, you guys, have been in different industries and different roles. When you are an entrepreneur and you're a solo agent or you're a solo entrepreneur in whatever venture, you're kind of wearing all the hats. And the more you do business and the more ventures you have in life, you realize there's certain things that you don't like to do or certain things you're not very good at. And when you're a part of a team, I get to say, hey, I'm going to give you this amazing opportunity, which a big part of it is I'm going to give you a lot of clients to work with so you can do a lot of business and you're going to make a lot of money and learn a lot and get to work with quality people. But the other part of it is all the things you don't like to do, I want a list of everything you don't want to do, and someone else on the team is going to do that for you. Within reason. You have to like to do something important. You can't hate everything. Otherwise, there's no place. But, for Ben, he doesn't want to show houses and he doesn't want to deal with paperwork. So when he goes on a listing appointment, someone on the team has got all the paperwork together. He does the CMA, he does the appointment, he comes back. Someone else goes and measures the room, does the photos, does the lockbox, checks on the property if it's vacant, so we can make sure our clients know that their property's being cared for. So, and then, same thing, we have got showing agents that want to be a showing agent because they love looking at houses, they love meeting people, but they don't want to negotiate deals. That's not fun for them. They don't enjoy it. They don't want to do it. It's not their happy place. And so that's the cool thing about a team, is that everyone gets to do what they're good at and what they want to do. And for people joining a team, I would encourage you to read this white paper I wrote, again, sellpdx.com/team. And one thing I did that was really eye-opening to me was I modeled an agent in my office. Actually, the agent I modeled just won Realtor of the Year yesterday. A woman named Diana McCready, who does about 50. At this time when I wrote it, she was doing, I think, 15 million a year. I think this year she's probably going to do more. Excellent agent, and she's a peer of mine, and we've done a lot of masterminding about growing teams because we both were growing our team at about the same time. And I basically did a model of what would it look like if someone at her level, doing I think 15 million a year, pretty balanced buyers and sellers, joined my team. What would it look like for someone like that at that level with that talent? She just won Realtor of the Year yesterday. This is a couple years ago. And what I found out when I ran those numbers through the model of being a part of a team is she actually made more money net than she was making on her own. And I did not expect that to be the case. I really didn't. I thought there was going to be a break-even point where once you did a certain amount too much, you would want to be on a solo agent again and have your own team. But it wasn't the case, because as your overhead grows when you have a team, right, you have staff and space and everything goes up in cost. And there is some efficiency for people. The only people that shouldn't be on the team are people that want to do like 5 or 6 or 7 deals a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing this as part-time, or that's enough for you to live the lifestyle you want and provide for yourself and your family, that's fine. I've got no judgment about it at all. And I kind of miss some of the days where I wasn't doing as much and I could take time off and no one called me for a month. Those days are long gone. But I was really surprised to model a $15 million a year business through my team model and find out that that person could make more money as part of a team than they would on their own. And so then you talk to people at that level, and their idea of having a team and maintaining it at certain levels is really an emotional choice, not a financial one. And that's a really interesting thing to think about. And not every team's structured that way. I mean, I pay people probably more than most teams, but I was really surprised because I honestly, when I started doing that, I had to do it a couple times because I kind of expected that it made sense that she'd be better off on her own. And it wasn't the case. And I was really surprised about that. Now today, maybe she's making way more money. I don't know. But it's interesting to look at, like, when you take away the expenses and you add the support, what can happen with the right combination of people.
Yeah, there's some definitely economies of scale for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for your time today. We're gonna probably end now, although I feel like we've got so much to talk about. We could continue in a phase 2 at some point. We'll reach out again. Always fun picking your brain and kind of where the conversation goes. So
cool, man. Happy to do a part 2 in the future when it's appropriate. We can cover some other stuff, and I really appreciate you guys. What you're doing is really different than anything out there, and you guys are definitely thought leaders and just true leaders in your industry too. So I'm happy to be a part of this, and I'm grateful to be in business with you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we really appreciate your guys' support. That's just been awesome. Thanks, Nick. And yeah, thanks. So I'm thinking part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Maybe we get, this would be a regular thing. It'd be awesome. If we have enough room, we'll get 3 people in here. How's that work?
All right.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
have a good day.
See you guys.